Hello and welcome to my channel. Yeah, so I guess I love how the majority of this is just me like getting ready in the day. Um, I guess Friday is just K-pop Friday or International Music Friday. I want to call that International Music Friday because I'm not just listening to, I guess, Asian music? I don't know. Recently rediscovered Lay Zhang from EXO. And it's been a spiral. So if you don't know who Lay Zhang is, he is part of EXO, and if you don't know who EXO is, I'm sorry, I can't help you. I can't even remember when they debuted. I remember watching them, I think, towards the end of my high school career, so somewhere around 2012, 2013 is when they debuted, and they were really, I think it was Growl was the first song I ever heard from them. And then I really didn't listen to them for a period because I wasn't listening to K-pop or anything like that. But then, some of the members left and some of the members stayed as usual. And it was really interesting to read about years later what had happened to them. But anyways, back to Isaac. So you scroll on YouTube, right? Like you scroll on YouTube and I ended up finding him by accident, completely by accident. I was watching, I don't know, sometimes my YouTube recommendations puts me into this like box where I'm like watching a lot of Chinese things. Because at one point I was watching a lot of Chinese dramas versus like Korean dramas. And I'll probably make a video talking about the difference between the two of them and why they drive me insane. Um, yeah. So I was watching like it was like Produce 101 from Korea, which I actually haven't watched, but Produced 101 X1 X and a bunch of other groups spawned off of them, and actually one of Gravity's members was on that show. I think two or three of them actually were on that show from an entertainment company that you can Google. So I got into the weird side of YouTube when you don't speak English, and I was literally watching I watched it for Lay Zhang, and so I'm watching Lay Zhang and I'm like, okay, and I'm slowly like falling in love with his personality and his work ethic and all this other stuff. And he's very hardworking. He's still part of EXO even though he can't be with them, I think, like full time, like promoting with them. I think that's a situation. I don't know. If any XOLs are watching this, just let me know. I have very surface information. I've Googled some of it, but I want to hear the opinion of XOLs. They're lovely. I know that for a fact I was listening to Lay Zhang's music, and after watching him on Produce, and I was watching his work ethic and how much effort he was putting into mentoring the trainees and their production value and explaining to them production value and like how hard he had worked before he debuted. I think he was working for like 2.5 years before he debuted with EXO. So yeah. I was reading something else where it was like, even though he's not actively promoting with EXO and is more promoting actively as a solo artist or solo person, Lay Zhang definitely has severe love for his EXO members because he just like every time he says it, hi, I'm Lay, and he just says yes, I'm from EXO, and he'll explain that his members, and he like it's not a past tense. It says they are still his members. It's not like he was not part of a group. He is still part of a boy group. So yeah, I was watching him, and then I got into Nama Nama. Oh, if you have not heard Nama Nama, like what are you doing? It's so catchy. It's like Nama 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 Na. And Nama Nama Na is between like English and Mandarin because it's an English song, sang by an M-pop artist, a Mando pop artist, and yeah. If you don't know what Mando pop is just Mandarin pop music. Like you have K-pop, which is Korean music, K-pop, Korean pop music. And there are some really fantastic artists in China, and I think that like North America or like the rest of the world doesn't really get access to it. Because Lay Zhang was doing some interviews in America, and I had just offhandedly watched it one day. I wasn't actually a fan of his until very recently. I want to say until like the last couple days. And I'm not going to claim that I'm a super fan, because I don't know if I am at this point or not, but I thought his music was really good. And if I don't think music is very good or it doesn't make me feel happy, then I generally won't listen to it. So I kind of like, I listened to it, and it was really good, and it was really fun to listen to. Anyways, so the song Na 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 came out in the US, and he's done a bunch of US interviews, such like with Build, MTV, BuzzFeed, like a bunch of them. And you can find them if you just Google search, if you just search it on YouTube. And yeah, he's very humble about the way he behaves. And I actually ended up searching for this show that's called like 3 Days in China. It's like the translation into English. It's like 3 days, and it shows him leading up to his solo concert in China. And as you watch the solo concert in China, watching him go through it is like he's very meditative. He's, you know, very focused on practice. He's always constantly practice. Like they first met him as he was practicing for the concert, and then he's like, oh, I have another dance class, and then he's like took some break, and then, you know, the host came, like the host was just like he was just kind of lazing around like in his own head trying to sort things out, because he's tired and he's exhausted and he was grumpy because he had been woken up and he hadn't gone to bed till like 6 a.m. So I think he's getting like 5 hours of sleep. Anyways, not the point of the story. The point of the story was that like I watched his personality and I was just like, oh, you're incredibly humble for someone who is this massive star in China and is essentially a youth ambassador in China. And, you know, he's broken several records in China concerning just like his music. And he's also currently on the show called CRZ Season 2. And it's essentially just like, it's an elimination show where he and a bunch of other like singer producers, they will produce new music essentially on the spot within a given time period, and then, you know, people vote for it. And he made a song called Joker, which I don't think has been officially released in the US. Maybe it's officially released in China, I don't know, but it's so good. It's like, I don't even remember, he says that like the way, like I watched the behind the scenes of the way he produced it and his thoughts behind it, and it was just like, you know, he's very good at it, and he essentially composed it all by himself and did apparently the beats by himself, and it was really good. It was just like, I can't even remember it. It was like like the first thing you heard was footsteps. Like the first thing I thought of was like the Joker from Batman, and he had the makeup for it, but the song just like didn't fit it. It was just like he's like, you think I'm a joke and blah blah blah, because a lot of people assume that because they're idols they don't produce their own music. And I know that there are several artists in the Asian market that do produce their own music, and, you know, in the US there are artists that don't produce their own music, you know. So I know that for example 17 produces all of their, like pretty much all of their music. I know that Stray Kids is generally involved in the process of making their music, because they actually have their own like a little production unit in them called Sriracha. Anyways, it's very fascinating to watch, and yeah, they're pretty cool. I thought like they produce music, and I think that's been the biggest change in like the Korean industry in general as I've watched over the years. Like it used to be just like this manufactured thing, and it still is. So music in Asia generally is tended to be more manufactured, and that's generally the consensus about it. I'm not saying that artists don't produce their own music. I'm just saying that's the general consensus. People get really upset when they don't produce their own music. And who else did I discover from China recently? I know the ones I'm talking about are very, very popular, and you can find them very easily on YouTube. This other one called Cai Xukun. I just know his name is Kun, Kun in English. And he is currently the producer on Youth With You Season 2, which is trying to form a 9-piece girl group in China. Kun was part of the boy group that the first season Idol producer came up with, which was 9%, and they have a lot of good music. If you haven't listened to it, listen to it, please. And he has some very interesting music. It's not generally my style of music. It's very more R&B-ish, and it just doesn't speak to me because he's quite young. He's 21 and he's quite young. And, you know, it doesn't seem like for me, I don't feel the connection with it, and I think that's important in music. It's feeling the connection when you're listening to it. So I listened to his music, and I listened to a couple of songs. The first song I ever heard from him was Baby Girl said, Baby Girl, you're gonna run. And that. And he's also incredibly hardworking, and I know that he also does a lot of his own production value concerning his music. And I think that's very nice to see and very interesting to watch their processes. I know he's huge in China because he's like represents like the new generation of like um artists in China, essentially, in my opinion, like just because of his mainstream popularity that I see. And I know that there's other really fantastic artists in China. Like watching this producer thing with Lay Zhang made me realize like how well how much like good music comes out of China, and I just never ever see it, which is really unfortunate because it's so good. Oh, anyways, so those are the two artists that I found, and then I found some other Chinese boy groups such as Next, which has some of the members from the entertainment from the group of 9%. They're in there too, and I know that SM has a Chinese boy group called Wavy, and I actually have not personally listened to them, but I've heard that their music is pretty good. What else? If you have any suggestions concerning music, let me know in the comments below. I will more than gladly listen to it. Bye.